In the top right side of Royal Blood, we are looking at the main base of the Italian stallion himself. This is Basilisk Reynor, as he's duking it out with our Croatian Protoss in the bottom left side. It is Platinum Heroes Goblin. Our 6th play day, guys. Currently we are rocking a perfect 5-0 record. And obviously we're going to try to stay undefeated. Well, there is one thing that I forgot. That is my captain's armband. All the games are live today. Last week the games were not live because of the ESL Masters. Just in case that either Serral, Reynor, or Trigger was playing on the final day. We wanted to make sure that their entire day would be focused around the ESL Masters. But today we are back to normal. Everything is live. Undefeated record is on the line. Obviously feeling good about it. The spirit is high. And well, you guys missed it because I was AFK and I didn't think they would start 30 minutes before schedule. But Reynor, his power ranking dropped to a 78, guys. Reynor is now in the 70s. He's not going to be happy about that. Of course, I am going to bring it up in the interview afterwards. We always do an interview with the Basilisk boys, win, lose, or draw. So far, it's only wins. I promise you guys that even if things don't go well, we'll still do an interview. And of course, in the interview afterwards, we'll briefly touch upon the games of last week as well, where we took it out with Berserker Esports. He's gonna get so mad, don't forget to bring it. It's the highlight of every interview, mate. We are not gonna forget that. Goblin is, of course, the Croatian Protoss that's very near and dear to my heart. He was part of Team Roddy for a long time. These two are also good friends. They play a decent amount of League of Legends with one another. I don't know if they've been playing a lot lately, but when Reynor spent a lot of time in my house, those two guys were quite often on Skype or Discord with each other, and they played a couple of games of League. I don't know who's the better League player, but I actually believe it was Goblin. End prediction maybe. We can let it go for at least 2-3 more minutes, but yeah. If any admin wants to end the submissions, basically around minute 4 or 5, I'd be happy. When are you playing Dota with me, Roddy? The Dota days are long behind me. I do enjoy MOBA, but that's not going to happen for a while. Maybe one day they'll release another MOBA that piques my interest, but even though I played so much Dota, if I look at Dota right now, I'm just lost. I don't even know what I'm looking at. The game has changed an insane amount. And I feel like to really stay on top of Dota, you need to play it a lot of hours, almost every day, or at least every new patch, and I just don't have time for that. We play StarCraft. Of course, in the future, we're going to play a lot of Stormgate. And I'm also very excited for F123, and that's about it. Oracle first here for Goblin. Obviously for Reynor, it's important to have a clean start against the Adepts in the Oracle. I think Reynor is very fired up to have a big day today, guys. It is no secret that Reynor, his results lately have just not been quite up to the usual standard. I don't want to say it's been terrible, because it's not been terrible, but it's not been as good as peak Reynor. As Goblin snipes a creep tumor, that's a lot of damage on an Oracle, guys, for just a single creep tumor. So, sure, annoying for Reynor to lose that tumor, but obviously a very clean start. Not only will Reynor play this best of 2 today, tonight at 9 PM, Reynor will also play the $200 main event in the Big Brain Bouts against Hero Marine. So if you guys are ready for some good TVZ, I've got you. Oracle has showed up again, and this is a much better Oracle flyby for Goblin, as he snipes 3 drones, doesn't take any extra damage. Good start there for Gobbis. No need to picnic for Reynor, but that's something that is allowed to happen once, but that's about it. Did he also get a drone the first time? So it's 4 drones in total. I didn't see that one. Good queen movement there by Reynor as he gets a couple of extra shots off. Goblin's follow-up will most likely be the Blink Stalkers and +1. And then the idea is obviously very simple, right? The Oracles are here to protect the Stalkers. The Stalkers are there to battle everything else. The Reynor will most likely head into +1 melee. It's not a secret that the high-level Zergs prefer +1 melee versus Stalkers. And obviously they want to go Roaches if the follow-up would be Resonating Glaives at depths, or if it would be a couple Zealots. It is actually going to be +1 missile attacks. So Reynor is not going to go into the links. He did drop the Roach Warren there, but still kind of thought that we could see melee. Not totally sure why that is. Maybe we can ask him afterwards. Decent amount of links running around, but obviously not enough to just try to make your way into the natural. Reynor does not want to donate these links. For Reynor, this is just a scout and the potential to find some damage, right? If there are stray units by themselves, if the oracles are on the other side of the map. Gotta say, Goblin is playing pretty clean. I don't hate what I see out of Goblin so far. As Reynor has his 3 queens, keeping an eye on these oracles. Triple pulsar beam is pretty powerful, but obviously, oh, good job there by Reynor saving the queens. So, Spore Crawler got a couple hits off, and the queens got quite a few hits off as well. The prediction is close because we are literally 6 minutes into the first game. Like, Litho, you had 15 minutes to get a prediction in, mate. That is, it's not my fault that you wait until the absolute last second. Yeah, this is all on you, amigo. But hey, there's at least 2 more best of 2s, and then we've got 4 best of 5s to make a whole bunch of predictions, so... At the end of the day, everyone can be a channel point millionaire. Thank you, Callium. I appreciate it. It's totally fine. So we have +1 armor on the way for Goblin. After +1 attack is already done. He's also dropping a second forge. And we've got a charge on the way. So it seems that Goblin is going for some sort of a hero style. But I do expect Goblin to also try to get some value out of his robo. Other than just a single observer. Reynor's supply is looking decent, but until the roaches have speed, you don't really want to get too carried away with these fights. This is a bit of a frustrating phase in the game for the Zergs, where the Protoss have a lot of micro potential. They can be out and about on the map, and as a Zerg, the only thing you can really do is kind of battle right on the edge of creep, but you definitely don't want to get off creep, because then you just get out micro. Reynor's dropping a couple of spine crawlers, so maybe already getting ahead of the potential zealot run buys that he's expecting. His Goblin's economy is obviously not bad at all. He's floating a little bit of money, needs to start spending that. I wouldn't hate an immediate Robo Bay from Goblin. When are we casting? Whenever you redeem 100,000 channel points or 125 channel points, and you do it on a weekly, mate. I will even let you cast the final of a weekly. And that's not something I normally do, but for you, Letho, I'll make an exception. But you are going to need the channel points. I gave him the points back, Letho. I never take the points if the thing does not actually happen, so he got his points back. Link's getting a surround here on a couple of the stalkers. Obviously, Blink is available. Goblin needs to make sure that he activates Pulsar Beam at the right moment. That was not a bad fight there for Reynor, as Goblin loses a decent amount of stalkers. We do have that Robo Bay finishing up. Are we going Colossus or Disruptus? I kind of want to see Disruptus here. Or at least one Disruptor. And then you can fire up Thermal Lens. As a couple of Banelings are ahead of the party on the right side, but Goblin does a good job there. 2 Disruptors being fired up. I'd also love to see him start Extended Thermal Lens, guys. Because since Reynor is not going Hive yet, Colossus really have some good potential. Obviously, when I say that, 9 minutes and 10 seconds into the game, Reynor does fire up the Hive. But I still wouldn't hate it. No? Yep, Reynor is a 78, according to the guys from WTL. And then we have to keep in mind that Reynor is actually one of the guys that does get points for his earnings, because he has done very well throughout his career. This is an interesting moment with a bunch of roaches running into the forest base. Nova flies forward, gets a Hydra. I feel like our game sounds are a bit quiet, by the way. I would like to fix that. But first I'm going to take a look at this fight. Hydra Ling against Stalkers. Obviously not a bad fight for the Hydras. The roaches not finding crazy success, though, at that 6 o'clock base. I'll turn game sounds up a little bit. No, it's kind of loud, but that's okay. Alright, in the end, the roaches managed to battle through. We have a couple of Novas. Neither of them explode in the middle of all the Hydras there. That's a bit unlucky for Goblin. Great target fire, of course, by Reynor, but that was so close that I have a hard time believing that was all skill. A little bit of luck, a little bit of skill. Now Reynor is obviously finding an insane amount of damage, and Goblin has a hard time getting that disruptor count up. After losing those 2 disruptors, they were so close to landing a big shot on all the Hydras. 21 probes dying in the midst of all of that, and then on top of that, the disrupt count getting reset. The only silver lining is that the oracles are still alive. There's maybe something that could come in handy, but I think Reynor has Goblin right where he wants him to have, where he wants him to be. Even Adrenal Gland's on the way. The 81 drones of Reynor is obviously a good economy, but it's not crazy good that Reynor can get reckless. There are still some disruptors that he needs to respect, and that is a big Nova. That's the Nova that Goblin has been looking for quite some time. Goblin is like, oh, maybe I'm still in it. Let me lean forward in my chair a little bit. This is a very good Ling run by though on the bottom right side. That base was wide open, very exposed. No batteries, no cannons. A couple of Zealots do not stand a chance. Obviously with the 4 Vipers, things will get a bit more complicated for Goblin. He does not have a Templar Archives. Will not be able to warp in any High Templars for feedback. That is a battery that's very important. I wouldn't have hated if he would have just overcharged immediately and then pulled the probes as well. Now you still lost 14 probes and you lost the battery. Reynor has done a tremendous job with creep spread, by the way. It's literally between the 4 bases of Goblin. And Goblin has been active, right? With his oracles, has been trying to push the creep back. A few more banelings will try to roll in. These are not the +2 banelings yet, that one-shot workers, but that many banelings, still something you need to respect. There is no such thing as me giving out channel points, Lethal. I cannot randomly give out channel points. A single point of failure, I really appreciate that, but I cannot let Lethal co-cast today, but I said on Monday, so I will have to give the points back again. Unless Lethal can promise me that he's here on Monday, and then I can cash it in. But then I can never give them back to you. As a couple of abducts are going to land, 1 or 2 Novas still managed to go off there. That's actually not bad. Goblin really is playing a sexy game here. I'm proud of him. Obviously, Reynor is still just going for it. Wants to break Goblin once and for all. All the probes are in a bit of a pickle. I love that blink, even though it's a painful blink, as the Lings are really going to town. And the final few Banelings do hurt. I love the blink to save the probes, but obviously it was not going to save the Stalkers. Reynor takes the 1-0 lead for Basilisk. Goblin is smiling a little. I don't know if the boys are having some banter on Battle.net. Goblin smiling through the pain. Was not a bad game by Goblin. I feel like he did a lot of things right. And don't forget that he got a bit unlucky with those 2 Novas that were so close to going off on the Hydras in the center of the map when all the roaches were running into that 6 o'clock base. If just one of those 2 Novas would have gone off, this would have probably been a little bit closer. Overall, decent showing by Reynor, and I think a very decent showing by Goblin as well. No more 50%, man. Hey. No need to get ahead of the situation. He can still be our 60% man. Maybe that's why Goblin was smiling. He's like, alright, you get that one, I get the second. I don't often take a look at these numbers, but you guys are correct. Goblin C tier, Reynor B tier. According to WTL, guys. Apparently, Goblin's mentality is just as good as Reynor's mentality. Reynor, literally a world champion of StarCraft 2. Goblin, once upon a time, made a top 8 in WCS Kiev. I don't think they're trolling. I think they're just very hard. They are just very, very, very harsh. In the top left side of Gresban, we are looking at the main base of our Croatian Protoss battling for the Platinum Heroes. That's Goblin. In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of the Italian Stallion. It's been a tough week for him, so he wants a solid Friday with a win in the WTL and a win later tonight in the big brain bouts. That man is, of course, Reynor. I know what you guys are thinking. Is it cold in the Netherlands at the moment, Roddy? Because Reynor is sitting there in a hoodie, and you're sitting in a t-shirt. Do you guys live far apart? No, we live pretty close to each other. Reynor apparently just likes to be warm. Maybe it's always cold for an Italian in the Netherlands, but today is a sunny day, guys. He's got to be sweating a little in that hoodie. Sort of cold outside? No, it's not, mate. I woke up and I was sitting shirtless in the backyard, okay? I had my morning coffee. And I was like, I know that I'll be slaving away today inside with another 8-9 hour broadcast. I sat outside in my backyard without a shirt on for like 45 minutes and it was fantastic. It was not cold at all. Where does Reynor live? I don't think Reynor is very open about where he lives exactly, so I don't want to say that. I'm open about it, you guys know where I live, but it's obviously not up to me to say where other people live in the Netherlands. It's not everyone likes that. So. It's 18 degrees in RotterdaM. It felt warmer than 18 degrees this morning. It was legit clear blue skies, sun shining. I was like, is this the start of the tanning season? Wait, doesn't Reynor live in Italy? No, Reynor lives in the Netherlands. He does still go to Italy quite frequently, obviously, to visit the family. To sometimes visit his girlfriend if she's in Italy. He's also all over the place. But this setup that you guys are looking at whenever he's got that StarCraft 2 poster in the back and those blinds, that is his apartment in the Netherlands. He is indeed still roommates with Skillis, but Skillis is not at home at the moment. Skillis could have gone anywhere he wanted to, and he decided to go to Berlin for the weekend. It's a little sus, if you ask me. You had to bike for your morning coffee at plus 15? I believe it, but it was very warm where I'm where I'm at, mate, I promise. Hello, DNS. First adept of Goblin sneaks in there, gets a kill on the drone. Might get a second one. No, Reynor with the clutch save, but in the end, at least the Zergling died there. Goblin does save his adept, though. Not a bad first adept for Goblin. Got in there, killed the drone, forced another drone to morph into a Spore Crawler. Sure, he lost some HP, but very acceptable damage. Is he working or studying in the Netherlands? Well, I definitely hope he's studying, because that boy dumb as fuck. No, I'm kidding. Reynor, of course, is a full-time pro gamer, mate. So, you can say that he is working here. He is currently doing his job. We are looking at a man who's fine-tuning his craft in front of our very eyes. Stupid question, is international travel in Europe similar to interstate travel in the US? Yes, but it depends a little bit, right? Europe is a big place. Not every country is necessarily part of the same region. But for someone from Italy and the Netherlands, yeah, that's very similar to going from California to Nevada or California to Texas. So, depends a bit per country, but for countries like the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Italy, there are no borders. There's no border control. You won't get a stamp in your passport. Just kind of go around, mind your own business. Yes, train system is very good in Europe. Europe is obviously a bit smaller than America is. At least if you talk about Western Europe. And not everywhere train connections are great, but like German trains are pretty damn awesome. French trains are pretty damn awesome. National trains in the Netherlands I think are awesome. Sure, they run late from time to time, but overall we are definitely spoiled here with public transport. Isn't there a limit how long you can be outside of the country? No. Reynor can be in the Netherlands for as long as he wants to be. If you're from Italy, you can go about your business whatever way you want. It would be different if he was from a country that's not part of the EU. But if Reynor wants to live for the rest of his life in the Netherlands, he can do that. He'd obviously have to pay taxes, but he could definitely do that. Hello, Nocti. I'm glad. Reynor has Overlord speed on the way. Alright, we've been talking a lot about the life of Reynor, guys, so we're not talking too much about this game. Now, it is the same song and dance, at least for the first few minutes, with oracles and adepts trying to find some damage. Goblin threw down a revelation there, and that could be a big revelation, because he already sees that the roaches are early. He sees a couple of overlords that look a little funky. And that's because they are not the usual overlords. They are dropper lords. Goblin knows what's coming, and he's building batteries. He's building cannons. I think that's a good call. And now it's all about trying to buy as much time as possible. Goblin does need a lot more pylons. And it's also very important to build like a backup pylon or two. Not just because you don't want to find yourself in a Nartosis pylon. You also want to make sure that if one of your pylons in the front dies, that you're not supply blocked then. It's going to be a very difficult hold for Goblin. Losing a Stalker there before the army even shows up is not great. Battery overcharge is going to keep the second Stalker alive. I don't hate it so far for Goblin, but it is going to be hard. Reynor, his attacks do hit like a truck, but with all the extra cannons and batteries going up, the Oracle still having a lot of energy. I want to say there is hope. One of the Oracles does die. One of the Queens falls. Stasis trap on the top. Freezes a couple of Ravagers. I don't hate it for Goblin, as there was a tiny link drop in the main base, but it seems that Goblin anticipated that. Okay, he's not avoiding the corrosive balls though. It's all right before Blink is done. But I still think it's very doable for Goblin, especially with another big Stalker warp in. This is actually looking quite good for our Croatian Protoss. Reynor's attack gets deflected. Great job by Goblin, man, because we've seen these link drops actually find insane damage in the past. And that's when even the attack in the front doesn't quite get the job done. It's the links in the main base that still make it worthwhile for Reynor. But Goblin said, I wasn't born last night, mate. I've seen you do this before. He was ready for it. Very quick reaction. And Goblin is in an amazing position here. 8 minutes into Grass 1. Will Reynor once more become the 50% man? He kind of broke the curse 2 weeks ago by... Sure, he went 1-1. But then he won the ace match for us against Firefly. So he wasn't quite a 50% man anymore. And even though last week I couldn't show you guys the games, because I had to cast the ESL Masters, the games did happen, and Reynor did get a 2-0 win over Papi. So he's definitely not a true 50% man. But today, though, he might at least keep the tradition intact, and whenever the games are live, he's the 50% man. Because he is in a bit of trouble here. Now, it is going to be hard for Goblin to just end this game. It's not like he can warp in 12 Zealots and aim move. It's not like he can blink forward and end it. Now, Reynor is the absolute king of comebacks. But he needs to make a bit of a comeback here, because that attack was not worth it. Goblin in a very good spot 9 minutes in. Getting a few queens here would obviously be fantastic for Goblin. And not just to slow down potential creep and injects, but also just for the momentum. Once you start sniping queens this far on the other side of the map, you know that the game is going well. And you know that you're kind of close to potentially breaking the Zerg. It wasn't live, so do we count that? I don't think we should. I don't think we should. Not one, but two Robos going down at the same time for Goblin, as we have 4 Zealots just running into the middle line here. Kind of a slow reaction by Reynor. I love that by Goblin. He says, alright, you're gonna stack all of your drones on those top 2 mineral patches. I'm gonna move my Zealots there and press hold position, so he gets a couple of extra hits off. Now Goblin is just playing a mighty fine game, guys. You can really say not a bad word about it. Reynor now investing in 25 Banelings. Losing a few roaches here would be very painful for Reynor, because Reynor is basically doubling down on lair tag aggression by the looks of it. Even though he does fire a +2 melee too, but all these Banelings, I can only imagine a Goblin wants to do something with them. We have a Baneling run by into the third, and that's a good one. That's 19 probes, and that's definitely the biggest victory that Reynor has found so far. I don't like that forward blink. Goblin, mate, you've got 1400 minerals in the bank. You just lost 20 probes. You've got double forge, double robo. You don't make forward blinks then. That is inte okay, as Fjant would say. Goblin is still in this game, but that was a strong moment for Reynor, and obviously a weak minute for Goblin with some big mistakes. Like, there's no need to be too aggressive. If A, your opponent is on lair tech, B, you're on even basis, and C, you're investing in double forts and double robo, and D, you even have money in the bank while doing all of that. There's like 5 reasons not to be aggressive. Roddy's so used to cheering for Goblin. I always cheer for the underdog, as long as the underdog is a sweet human. And Goblin is a sweet human. Of course I am cheering for a Basilisk win, right? If Basilisk and Platinum Heroes are tied up and it's 3-3, of course I'm cheering for Reynor over Goblin. But this is the start of the clan war. We are looking good. Oh, Goblin a bit uncomfortable there, working on the rocks. I'm just hoping for an exciting match between these two teams. As the floodgates are open, and that's a big run by into the natural, and that's obviously a problem. I don't know if Goblin can keep his probes safe. He's losing a couple probes. Now he's losing all the probes. The observer, I want to say, kind of missed it, or maybe didn't miss it, because we had some picture-in-picture in the bottom right side. But it went from 3 or 4 probes to 25 probes. That is a problem. 1 cannon, 1 battery in the natural would make Goblin's life so much easier. Reynor is starting to turn things around. And this game now looks better for Reynor than it's done in a very, very long time. It all goes back to that moment where Goblin was just a little overeager, too far out, took damage from the Bailing run by, was investing in all these fancy things like the double forge and the double robo, the robo bay, and then still took damage. Obviously Goblin still has a chance. He's got Disruptus, he's got a couple of oracles, but once Hive Tech is done, Reynor is a terrifying Zerg to go up against once Hive Tech kicks in. Tonight's Big Brain Bouts is Reynor and Big Gabe, right? Yes, that is the main event. But the other matches I think are very fun too. We are celebrating Arrowfire, finally turning 16. So he can play again in the Big Brain Bouts. And obviously can now participate in the ESL Masters. And I think we also have a very fun community best of 5 to open things up with Maddox and Lino. But I'll tell you guys all about the Big Brain Bouts later. I think we have a fun evening of games ahead of us. First though, we obviously hope that Basilisk stays undefeated in the WTL. And I have a very good feeling about that. I know that the boys are confident. But Reynor is having to work for it here in Game 2 against Goblin. But I think he has survived the scariest phase. He has managed to get himself out of trouble. The man was in a bit of a pickle. Right now it just looks like a competitive game. But Reynor in a competitive game with +2 melee, with +2 Banelings and Hive Tech. I think I always favor Reynor against pretty much anyone. As we've got a little bit of creep being dropped as well in the natural, and that's obviously lovely for these links to be even quicker. They help back into the drop lord. Reynor at this point is having a good time, and look at that bank, by the way, that he has amassed over the last few minutes. 3k minerals, 2k gas. Hard to imagine that this game started off with a link drop into the main base and a big Queen Roach Ravager attack into the third. That really didn't work. It kind of failed. And if Reynor has a start like that against the likes of Hero or Max Packs, I guarantee you guys it is game over. Goblin is great, but he's not quite the packs. Reynor now has 46 freaking Banelings morphing at once. I gotta give kudos to Goblin, by the way, for keeping these oracles alive. For basically forever. He's doing a great job with that. Reynor does need to be a little bit careful because Goblin's army right now is bigger than it's ever been before. And lands a feedback as well. A couple of Novas fly forward. We need a big Nova on the Banelings on the side of Goblin. Nice blink there, I gotta say, to maybe keep some of the probes safe. In the end, it was a buttload of Zerg. And Lovestalkers survive, but they're very low in HP. As Reynor immediately remaxes with 100 Zerglings on the production tab. The perfect 100. Was even a bit more there for a split second. The Goblin won this. Can I continue pushing with my leftover units? I don't think that's quite the case. Unless he lands a fat, juicy Nova in the middle of all these Ravagers, then obviously it is the case. Ravagers actually taking out a couple of Zerglings there. First Nova kind of whiffs. The second one completely whiffs. I think Goblin needs to chill. I don't think he can continue being aggressive. Because those 100 or so Zerglings that Reynor had on the production tab, they are here right now and they are ready to battle. As one of the Archons gets surrounded. Archons are supposed to be good against Lynx, but not in these numbers. And not when the Lynx have Adrenal Glands and +2. I'm afraid for Goblin, this is it. The man got awfully close to getting a victory over Reynor here in the best of 2. Finally, one of these Oracles does die. One Rambo Zealot. That's me, by the way, guys. That Zealot is Roddy. He's going to town on that hatchery, just hitting the back a little bit. And he's putting in some good work. Unfortunately, it's not going to make the difference. Just because you put in some work on the back, that doesn't mean you can eat Ben & Jerry's at midnight. That Zealot is basically living my life right now. Just love Ben & Jerry's, what can I do? Goblin knows that this one has slipped away from him. He was in a good spot. I'm sure that he didn't think that he had it locked up, because he knows that it's always hard to end the game against a man like Reynor, especially with units like Blinkstalkers. I think overall good showing here for Decoration on the Dark, even though it will not result into a map win for him and his team. It means that Basilisk is off to another great start. And we love it. I want to obviously keep it nice. Because we are on very friendly terms with the Platinum Heroes. We invite them into the big brain bouts very often. Of course, Goblin is near and dear to our heart, but it is a Reynor who says, alright, enough with the 50% memes and enough with the disrespect. B tier player, not on my watch. Has now successfully made it into Lurkers. Lurkers are going to burrow. There's very little detection here. The Oracles do make it over. They drop a revelation, but it's a day late and $1 short to make the nerds on Reddit happy. Reynor gets a good start to an important Friday. Gets a 2-0 on the board. And we'll see more of Reynor later tonight. And obviously we'll see him in the interview too. I do think it's a coincidence, lost my account rip. But yeah, it could be the most epic regular season match ever. Where we have 2 undefeated teams. But let's not get that far ahead of ourselves. We still need to play the Shopify Rebellion. We still need to play Team Liquid. There are plenty of very good teams in WTL. Choose outcome. Reynor gets the 2-0. Second series, it should be RSD. It's Serral, right? Serral versus DnS. Adrian, he was in the chat. Give you guys 10 minutes, but there is a chance that we have to close this one a bit earlier. Obviously, if Serral gets a 2-0, guys, the clan war is done. But of course, we are going to watch Trigger against Vindicta, which I think is a fun one on paper. Something that I feel like I could have done in the big brain bouts. The Trigger is damn good in PvT, so it will be hard for Miguel. Serral does not want to lose a map here, because Serral is one of, I think, the only, maybe there's like 2 or 3, but there aren't many. One of the only perfect players so far in the WTL. Serral has played 5 times and won 5 times 2-0. We also had him in an ace match twice or once, and he also won those. So Serral has a perfect 12-0 record, I think, coming into this. I'll take a look. How many ace matches did we have? I know Reynor won 1 ace match. Take a look very quickly, guys. Serral went 2-0. Serral went 2-0. Serral went 2-0 and won the ace match. And here Reynor won the ace match. So Serral is 11-0 so far. A perfect 11-0 record. That, well, 100% is 100%. Serral's a decent play, isn't he? I gotta say, I have not been unhappy with having Serral on the team. Overall, I think we are looking at his performance. He won the ESL Masters. He went 8-0 in WTL Code A. He went 11-0 in WTL Code S. We are quite pleased with his showing so far. There's no need to call him to a separate room and be like, alright, we want more, Yona. 97! Oh my goodness, they have been impressed. After Serral just wins no matter what the hell he does. They have now increased him to a 97. He was 94 before. He's a 97 now. Reynor keeps on getting nerfed. Serral keeps on getting boosted. According to the WTL guys, there is a... how many points is that? What was Reynor? 78? 19 points difference? And 19 points difference. As we take a look at this beautiful octagon over here. Purple is obviously Serral. Grey is what they have in common. Apparently the guys from WTL have been impressed by DNS's aggression throughout the years. They are somewhat close in aggression. I like how Serral doesn't have perfect offense. Maybe because he doesn't attack too much, but you don't need to attack if your hive tech play is god tier. Why make it random when you can keep it solid? Did you lose a map yet? Nope. Serral's perfect. 11-0 in Code S, 8-0 in Code A. 68 or 47? I don't get the 47. It clearly is a 68. DNS is good. They saw the Eric builds. Every interview, Reynor, guess how many points you lost. 29-point difference. Between who? Between these guys, yes. I thought you guys meant between Serral and Reynor. I was like, no. I think I had it right. Reynor was 78. Serral was 97, so that's 19. Here we go.
Round 1. Fight!
In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who just stopped by our channel for a little bit. It's the Platinum Heroes DnS, a French veteran. In the top right side, we are looking at the main base of the man who's been quite alright over the last few months whenever he decides to play a couple of video games. The great Jonas Sotala, Serral. When will they stop trying to hatch block this gas trick opener? Well, as long as they keep on hatch blocking, I guess the answer is never, mate. Serral seemed a little bit unhappy with that. He's like, why the hell was that probe there so quickly? He missed one mineral. I am curious to see what DnS is gonna bring to the table here. He is a man that loves the late game. Is not afraid to turtle to carriers and a mama ship, and he's pretty damn good with these maxed out Protoss armies. It's just that's really Serral's bread and butter. And there are very few Protoss players that are like, you know what I want to do? Play ultra late game against Serral. Serral can be a very patient man. And I'm sure the DnS knows that. Maybe he's gonna do one ultra aggro game and one ultra passive game. How that probe was scared of being trapped by the spawning pool for a second. Well, we saw that in the ESL Masters, right? Max packs against Serral. Grand Finals, altitude. That was actually the very first time that I've ever seen that too. There are not many things that I've never ever seen before in StarCraft. Today I saw something brand new, guys. We saw Silky open things up with roaches and tunneling claws. I'd never seen that before. Because he didn't have burrow and he didn't have roach speed. So that was the first. Probably for all the right reasons. What server are they playing on? I'm gonna assume Europe, mate. Because DnS is from Europe and Serral is from Europe. And Europe only has one server. So unless they both really enjoy pain, I think it's Europe. Claws with no burrow? Yes. That was the strategy we saw. A useless upgrade? Exactly. I'd never seen that before. It was brand new, mate. Cool new build. I hope to see it on the ladder somewhat frequently. To be fair, he did force out a cannon or two and an observer. What did Dad think of the gameplay? I thought you played a very solid best of 2, Goblin. I think you got a bit unlucky on Royal Blood with the 2 Novas getting picked off right before they connected with the Hydras. And game 2, I think you pretty much had it. I just think you got a little bit carried away. You obviously had a lot of money. A in the bank, B in double forge, and C in double robo and the robo bay. If you would have just chilled and that baning run by wouldn't have happened, I do think it was that second game was definitely yours. But even if you end up losing 0-2, I still think you can look at that performance and be like, hey, that was not bad. I hope that gives you some motivation for the upcoming months, mate. Yeah, I'm glad that you're happy. Even if you lose in StarCraft, sometimes it's okay to be happy with the performance. I know that there are some Omega Giga chats out there that are like, the only thing that counts is winning, and if you lose, doesn't matter if you lose by this or that. But I think that's a very silly attitude to have in StarCraft. I think there is a lot of satisfaction and happiness to be found in good performances, even if you don't get the dub. Because that can obviously get you where you want to be in the future. 2 oracles here of DnS casually fly by and get not 1 but 2 drones. Now Queen's tiny bit out of position. I kind of thought the DnS was going to be able to get 1 more there. Not a bad start here for the Frenchman. Keeps the oracles healthy. Snipes a few drones. Also think, by the way, Goblin, that you did a great job with your oracles and keeping them alive for as long as you did. Especially against that first push. I feel like people always lose their oracles there. At least 1 or 2 against the Queens. You did a very good job. But I've been complimenting you for your oracle play for quite some time, so I wasn't too surprised by that. Yeah, no, only dubs matter. I'm sure that you are an incredibly accomplished video gamer, and that your opinion is very relevant here. We all know Silly Seal, guys, once upon a time broke into Platinum 3 while the whole world was watching. We saw it, we acknowledged it, and we're proud of him. And his final words are, before he officially became a Twitch chatter and stopped playing video games, are only dubs matter. Let that sink in, guys. Show me a second place and I'll show you a loser. Yeah. Obviously, if you're LeBron James or Lewis Hamilton, you can make a couple of bold statements about how everything that matters is win. But obviously, not everyone can be a GOAT. And I think it's very important for your own mental state to be sometimes happy with the performance. And there is no need to build Rome overnight. Nobody needs to install StarCraft and expect themselves to defeat Serral within a week. And if that doesn't happen, we're a loser. Like, I think that's just silly. We're all on a journey. And some people peak immediately, some people peak a bit later. Thank you for admitting that Lewis is the GOAT. At the moment, I would say that Lewis is the GOAT. But once upon a time, let's say Innovation was the GOAT in StarCraft 2. But then a Serral came along. Maybe Lewis is the GOAT right now, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a chance that a Dutchman comes along and eventually snaps that title away from him. Better than Schumacher. I mean, Schumacher was great. I don't know. I think it's very hard to compare those things. Schumacher was great, Senna was great, Lewis is great. Doesn't matter. My point is that not everyone can be an all-time great. Let's put it like that. Instead of GOATs. And yeah, I think it's perfectly fine for Goblin to be happy with a strong performance against Reynor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's going to help you a whole lot more than beating yourself up for every single loss you've ever had. As a couple of links are dancing with these adepts. DNS lets the adept shade finish up and a few drones will fall. Has a pretty smooth transition into the double robo, and the robo bay is still battling on the edge of creep with stalkers. DNS is having a perfectly fine game here. Obviously would love to find a little bit more success before Serral just comfortably makes it up to Hive, but it's doing good. Serral had a couple of idle drones as well earlier. Now once more there was a drone that was misrallied. This is obviously not a bad fight here. Stalkers are expensive, roaches are dirt cheap. So any day that you can trade out a few roaches per stalkers, you're gonna be happy as a Zergy. Serral is always very keen on to just rush into Hive, get Vipers out, and abduct those first Colossus against the big push. I really don't hate it here for DNS. Now, doesn't mean I think DNS is going to win, of course not. Serral is incredibly good. Serral pretty much always wins, even when you don't think he's going to win. But right now it does feel that there is going to be one big game-deciding fight, to quote Hero Marine. And that is the first time that the Colossus, the Stalkers, and the War Prism are going to make it to the other side of the map. And Serral is going to do his absolute best to get a couple Vipers out. And there's a Templar Archives that's being warped in as well. So imagine a world where if DNS lands a feedback or two, he could very well do what no one else has done before, guys. Like, it's easy to look at a game and be like, oh yeah, Serral's going to win, but that's really not a given at the moment. I believe here in the chances for DNS. He's got a chance. I'm not going to say that he is winning, but he's definitely competitive as a couple of Zealots run into the 3 o'clock base. Ultra quick reaction by Serral. Pulled the drones away before the first Zealot hit even got off. And DNS is chilling. He is not fully sending it. He had no War Prism there, I believe. Maybe he's going for Storm. Now, I do think it is important for... Yes, there goes Storm. It is important for DNS, though, guys, I think, to fight before ultimate Hive-Tech units are out. You don't want to fight against Broodlords. You don't want to fight against Lurkers with both of the upgrades with this kind of an army. DNS has a chance here. Nice Parasitic Bomb. Come on, DNS. Come on, DNS. We have 3 units. We can split there a little. Losing 1 Oracle is painful. Losing 2 Oracles. That wasn't necessary. Like, maybe 1 Oracle could have gone down there, obviously, because it was already a bit injured, but he was not supposed to lose 2 Oracles there. He's gonna try to drop a stasis, but that stasis will get blown up immediately. Few banelings with +2. Try to make it into the middle line. +2 banelings, one-shot workers. Serral finds 16 plus probes here. Make it 18 in the end. DNS still has a 60 workers though. Has a chance. But I do think it's time to queue up a War Prism. I haven't seen a War Prism yet. Without a War Prism, we're not gonna end this game. I would not want to wait until lurkers are out and Seismic Spines kicks in. I think there is a little window, guys, for the Frenchman. But we need that War Prism. Sitting back forever, I think, is a wrong decision for him. He's still not believing in the first drop map. There is our War Prism. This is honestly already, in a weird way, one of the closer games that Serral has had. Of course, some deterrence pushed him to the limit. But DNS is showing us here that even though he's been around for a long time, he can still battle. He can still knows how to play the video game. Could have blinked that Stalker there, to be fair, but it's all good. Serral has a Spire on the way. RotterdaM is done. Seismic Spines is that green upgrade right next to the lurkers in the production tab. That's a very important one. That's the range upgrade. DNS, it's go time, amigo. You've got your Prism. You've got your army supply. And Serral now even invests into a Nidus network. These one-bys are relentless, and they're even going to force DNS to recall. And Colossus, I want to say, a little bit exposed. That Nexus, I think, is actually going to go down since the Colossus were firing at the roaches. But DNS shouldn't worry at this point. Like, just pretend that none of this is happening. Let it go. Be Elsa from Frozen. Let it go. Full send. Other side of the map. He wasted a lot of time. Like, look at the 10 lurkers. Seismic Spines is now done. You guys can see that on the right side of our screen. And now I suddenly believe a whole lot less in Stalkers and Colossus and Storm. None of that, I think, is particularly fantastic. And Serral doesn't have like 7 or 8 lurkers here, guys. We're looking, I think, at 12, 14 lurkers. As a Nidus goes up into the little spot of the main base of DNS where he's got no vision. DNS should really ignore that Nidus and F it. Like, it's now or never, mate. The longer it goes, lend some feedbacks. He needs to lend feedbacks. Can he lend feedbacks? No, he goes for the Storms. I think feedbacks would have been the play there because those Vipers had a lot of energy. Obviously, a lot of probes are going to die, but that is not important. This army right here is the army that needs to get the job done. DNS, let it go, mate. Time to go full Disney movie. Let it go. Let it go. I wouldn't even look. I would just pretend it's not happening. As we do have an abduct landing on an Archon. Not the worst thing. Another Archon gets abducted. Feedback does land. I'm thinking one of the Vipers has already used some energy. Some juicy storms. Do we have an observer here though, guys? We have 2 observers. I don't quite see it. I don't quite see an observer. There has to be one with his army. Great Aspire is very close to finishing up. Where are the mobs at? I'm sure there is one with that. Okay, yeah, there's one next to the Colossus, I believe. It's over there. Alright, so one was revealing. No, not next to the Colossus. Above the creep. DNS knows that it is go time. That it's now or never. But it was kind of now or never 2 minutes ago. With every second that goes by, Serral is just growing stronger and stronger. 2,500 minerals in the bank for Yona. Not too much gas. But it's not just the lurkers anymore, guys. There are 6 Broodlords on the production tab as well. And the army supplies maybe even. But at this point, Serral's army is just too damn good. And DNS is gonna just go home one more time. Does not feel that he can break Serral, but obviously now all the economic damage he took over the last few minutes, it hurts so much more. Yona did an incredibly good job indeed in buying some time for himself and making sure that DNS wouldn't just go immediately when Serral was working with only lair tech units and only had 2 or 3 Vipers with little energy. Serral did a great job in keeping DNS busy, forcing DNS to pay attention to the defense. And now DNS is not attacking Roaches, Ravages and Banelings. Now he's attacking Lurkers with both of their Hive Tech upgrades and Broodlords. Yeah, good luck, have fun. Once more, the transitions were buttery smooth for Serral, and he's got a terrifying Zerg army. It's so funny how the Protoss armies work as well, right? Because Stalkers, Colossus, Archon, Storm, it can look so good and so powerful against certain Zerg armies. And now you see it against a bunch of Broodlords, Vipers and Lurkers, and you're like, That Protoss army looks bad. Obviously, DNS is not going to leave until a fight took place, but a couple of ducks are going to land here. 2 Colossus will die immediately. At least a couple of feedbacks did go down in the end, but Colossus die, Immortals die. And I do think that this game will be over before the first Tempest ever sees the light of day. A couple of Broodlings to lead the charge. Storm does land, but Storm to Lurkers, guys, is kind of like tickle, 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 tickle. It's like, oh no, stop it. It's like when your crush in high school is tickling you. You're like, oh no, stop it. But actually you love it and you're like, no, continue. I love it when we're close to each other. That's the best way to describe Storm on Lurkers, guys. That's all I got. We've all been there. Oh no, I don't like it. The Lurkers like it, guys. They don't even feel it. There are a couple of Zealots and Archons harassing a hatchery and spine crawlers at the 3 o'clock base, but this Zerg army is just straight up terrifying. DNS's supply is dropping, it's dwindling. And we haven't even seen that one big fight, right? That's why I kind of wanted to see him just send it, right? With the first few Colossus, the first few High Templars, War Prism. Because at that point, it was always going to be a close fight. Like win or lose, it was going to be close. And now the game ends, and it's not close. And unfortunately, nothing crazy happens. As GG got called, Serral gets the 1-0 lead. And he stays perfect for now. 11-0 becomes 12-0. And we're still counting, baby. Ask Pig, do not ask Pig, guys. Actually, you know what? Go ahead and ask Pig. But just don't tell me what he said, because I cannot repeat it on this broadcast. Knowing Pig, it probably includes a strap-on or two. And I'm like, no, Pig, stop. Like, it's too early, man. It may be 10 p.m. in Australia, but it's only 3 p.m. over here. I'm not ready. Nope, it's not a bad effort at all, but a little bit of heartbreak so far for the Platinum Heroes, because clearly they're playing well. They're making the boys work for it. They are competitive, but it's still 3-0 already for us, Basilisk. So we are on match point, and we are very close to improving our perfect 5-0 record to a perfect 6-0. And don't forget that we also went 4-0 in WTL Code. So this is our anniversary win. If we win today, we are 10-0 in Clan Wars since we started competing. Thank you, Stretch, for the 7 months. Game 2 will be played on Gresswan, just like a Goblin. It seems that DNS likes Gresswan against Zerg. I don't know what I would pick. I actually think, guys, I'm a bit of a weirdo. If I have any Protoss players in the chat, feel free to answer this. Or whether you're high level or low level doesn't matter. But what do you guys like to play PvZ? Because I kind of like Altitude, actually. I kind of like Altitude as a Protoss. Top left side, we're looking at main base of the Platinum Heroes. DNS played a very solid first game. But in the end, he fell victim, like many others did, to this man. Bottom right side, the great Jonas Sotala. Basilisk Serral. 1 map away from already securing the W for us today. Roddy, what score do you think they would give you if you played? Well, I am sure that we'll find out, mate. Because my intention is definitely to play at least once. And I think the other boys, as this time around the hedge block did not go down. So Sarah says, ha, got you. We'll probably, and I think the boys on the Basilisk also want to see me play at least once. I think I'm gonna get like anything between 44 and 54, something like that. If it's lower than 90, I'm riding. I think I'm gonna get high 40s. Imagine if they give me 79. I think high 40s is what I would end up with. I don't know. They may just think that I'm very bad because I lost to the Chinese caster. I never know how to pronounce his name, but Shaoxi. I played really bad that day. So they might think I'm god-awful. But obviously they saw me play against Goblin. And if they would take a look at my Aligalak, and they would take a look at my last few games, they would see that I took a map of Creator, I took a map of Max Packs, I took a map of Percival. So hopefully I get a little bit of love for that. Roddy and Earning makes all these nerds cry. Sick Warcraft money. No. It was incredibly hard to make a lot of prize money in Warcraft. Like, I know how in StarCraft 2, if things are not 100% to our liking, we often have a lot to say about it, right? Oh, this is not good, that is not good. In Warcraft 3, the biggest tournament of the year was the World Cyber Games. That was the one tournament that everybody was looking forward to. You had to finish top 3 to get money. And there was even a third place match, and if you would lose the third place match, you would make it into the semifinals, you'd get 0. Quarterfinals, you would get 0. ESWC was a little bit better in that regard. Top 8 would get paid, but those were the 2 biggest tournaments of the year. And many other tournaments, it was always the same. You'd fly to China, literally only top 3 gets paid. So unless your name was Moon, Sky, Grubby, or Todd, you had a very hard time winning prize money. Do I think I could take one map of Serral in the best of 7? No, not right now. Like, over the history, I did get somewhat close to a few times almost winning a ladder game against Serral. Obviously, A, that means a lot less. And B, I was pretty good back then. I was better than I currently am. But obviously, if all these pro gamers are falling victim to Serral, it'd be very weird if I would sit here and be like, yeah, guys, I think I could take a game. Like, no. We could play a best of 47, and if Serral truly brings his A game, Serral would, what would that be? 24-0 me. Like, if he is truly on point, like, me beating Serral has very little to do with me, and has everything to do with Serral, right? I cannot beat Serral if he's on his best. I can only ever defeat Serral if he's having a terrible off game, or he just does a bad strategy. But it's not in my hands. You mean when Serral was 13? When Paladino Terminal and Blackpink were around. That's when I had a couple of close games with Serral. He was already the best back then. So like 2017, 2018, something like that. I wasn't always bad, mate. I was, once upon a time, 6,300 MMR, okay? It's pretty good. I also won the Bald Man Invitational. All random tournament. Defeated Goblin in the final. You came third at a DreamHack in 2006 and got $200. For what game, Lastling? Do you think the best players in the early years of S2 would have a chance against Maru Serral now? No, 0 chance. Like, legitimately 0. I know there are people that still believe that when MVP and Live were good, that was the highest level that there ever was. Or right after the Caspa thing happened, but the thing is that they were incredibly good for that version of StarCraft 2. But that version of StarCraft 2 had a lower skill ceiling than the current version of StarCraft 2. So they were never at this level. And I am not like kind of sure about that. I am 100,000% sure about that. As we have DNS here, by the way, guys, with a couple of adepts, just very casually getting 9 drones. He says, while you guys discuss StarCraft 2 history and goats, I'm gonna go ahead and make this goat bleed a little. And he just picks off 9 drones with a couple of adepts before Resonating Glaives is even done. That's a very promising start for the Frenchman. As we now have Serral re-droning, but more adepts are making their way to the other side of the map. Once these adepts show up, by the way, guys, Glaives is done. There is some good potential here for DNS, as the roaches are on the production tab, but they're not quite out yet. Guys, this shade has potential, man. This shade really has some potential, but Serral obviously has a great pool. Maybe DNS can get a queen or 2. Maybe move the adepts a tiny bit closer to that queen. Serral. Serral refuses to lose any queens, and he actually keeps the adepts out of his natural as well. So he buys himself some extra time to get these extra roaches out. Spectacular defense here by Serral, guys. This could have been so bad. This could have been so ugly. Like, obviously Serral will never die to adepts. But Serral could have easily lost 10, 15 drones there and a couple of queens if things went wrong. Instead, he only ends up losing a few links. He's pretty good, isn't he? He's alright, guys. He's quite alright. That was an amazing stunning defense by Serral. Whew. DNS, of course, still has a lot to play for in this game. We can't just say like, oh, now he's out. No, not at all. Still a perfectly fine game for DNS. It's just that he was awfully close there to creating perhaps a lovely big lead for himself. I believe it, Mr. Battle Mage. Like, I would never say that the guys in the early days were bad. Like, only in the very beginning. If you guys would ever go back and you watch the first, second, or third season of GSL Codas, you're gonna rip your eyeballs out. A Diamond player right now would have won GSL Codas back then. Of course, like a little bit later in 2012, like the guys were good, don't get me wrong. But it's just that the game was not as fast as it currently is. And the strategies and the meta and the units did not allow the same kind of multitasking and transitions and counters as we currently have. So they simply never performed at this level. And I feel anybody that truly understands StarCraft and you look at what was possible in Heart of the Swarm, and you look at what's possible in Legacy of the Void, and you look at how the meta of Legacy of the Void has transitioned, I feel like that should be obvious. There's still people who believe that Peak StarCraft was live against Marov that won IEM and it never got better, but it was a great series, don't get me wrong, but it did get better over time. Like, one of my all-time favorite memories as well of StarCraft is Dark against Beyond, Grand Finals of BlizzCon, where I thought that they both played at an incredibly level. They played really, really freaking good high-level StarCraft. But still, they're playing better these days. That was a great final, one of my all-time favorite finals. I was stunned, I was blown away. I loved it from Beyond, I loved it from Dark. But people play better in this day and age. Was in Heart of the Swarm that changed to 12 workers? Nope. It was a Legacy of the Void. At Legacy of the Void we started with 12. Heart of the Swarm was still with 6. We've got a Storm on the production tab for DNS, as Serral has once more made it up to a very early hive. 9 minutes and 20 seconds into the game. Serral is maxed out. We've got a little drop alert on the production tab as well. Maybe some, I wouldn't say bailing drops, but if you want to go for bailing drops, then we probably more of that Overlord on the other side of the map. So maybe he's going to bring some queens. I'm not quite sure what that drop lord is for. Serral does like this. This gives me some Cats vibes, right? I gotta say, or TLO Cats. Two players that I think were dropping creep very early on, then get one queen over to drop some creep tumors. This is obviously a bit different than the way that TLO and Cats did it, but I think the idea is the same. And you want to give kudos to those two creative Zergis for thinking outside of the box. And Serral is now showing them ways how you can implement that into some very high-level StarCraft. Unfortunately, the Serral does end up losing 2 queens. Storm is done, so DNS definitely has some potential. Lens another Storm, tiny Abduct, and a single Archon is good enough. Come on, kill that queen. Thank you, GG Gracious, for the 2 months, saying ... Parting versus Flash at Home Circle was insane. So I've got something about that to really put into perspective on how much better we currently are. Because I love that you bring that up. And I will talk about it as soon as this best of 2 is done. And we get ready for Trigger versus... Who's Trigger? Vindicta. Trigger versus Vindicta as our final series. But I've got a perfect example, and you guys can go back into the VODs on YouTube to see exactly what I'm talking about, on why we are so much better right now than we were back then, even if Flash against Spotting was amazing. Not 1 but 2 Lurker Dance, guys, dropped. Obviously, Serral could potentially get both of the Lurker upgrades at the same time, but it's still not something we see super often, because especially Adaptive Talents doesn't take that long. DNS is just, once again, guys, playing a very lovely game, and that first game was good, and the second game is just as good, if not perhaps even a bit better than the previous game. And if Serral is dropping 2 Lurker Dens at a time, and they're right next to each other, so it's clearly on purpose, He clearly does feel that time is of great importance here. And he doesn't want to wait for one upgrade to finish up and then the next. Those banelings will have +2, right? They have +2 melee. So, yep. Oh, 4 banelings are about to get a record amount of probes. Even though Serral showed us there that he's human and he did make one mistake. 16 probes in the natural. Unfortunately for Serral, only 1 in the main. As he did kind of send it through the mineral line there. A couple of banelings blow up a few zealots on the top side of the map. DNS is willing to go to that late game. Because we've got multiple Stargates and +1 air weapons on the production tab for the Frenchman. I should give this job to RotterdaM so we could watch an evenly matched game. I love your confidence, mate, but I'm not evenly matched with DNS. DNS is way better than I am. And to think that he's on my level is a bit disrespectful towards DNS. This is a very successful pro gamer over the years who has often made it into top 16, sometimes even top 8 in foreign events. I couldn't even qualify. So. DNS is good, mate. We have a lot of links of Serral on that 9 o'clock base, getting a full surround so that Nexus does seem to die. Battery died, pylon died, and Nexus will melt. Not the biggest loss ever for DNS. Obviously, it's never a good feeling to lose a Nexus, but right now it's a lot more important for him to just stay on top of the air upgrades. Make sure we don't lose too many probes. Losing a few here and there is acceptable, but we don't want to see -20, -30. It's all about the carriers. The Serral fires up 21 drones, and that can only mean one thing. That is going to build a lot of spore crawlers. +1 air weapons is done. DNS, I give you 3 seconds to fire up +2 air weapons, mate. You want to win this game, we need to chrono boost the hell out of that +2 air weapons for the carriers. Right here. Right now. Stalkers and Archons are not going to do a whole lot against Lurkers. We already saw that in that previous game. Man is not firing up +2 air weapons yet. Tick tock, tick tock. And I'm not talking about the app. Missed opportunity, guys. Little missed opportunity. As you guys can see, Serral is already working on upgrades for his Corruptors as well. And he's going for Carapace, which I think is smart. Corruptors will always deal damage against Carriers. Carriers will never really get early armor upgrades. So, just focusing on your Carapace is a lot more important. This is a solid army though by DNS. He does fire up +2 air weapons now, but it could have really been halfway done already with a couple of Chronos. I know I sound like a broken record, but it is one of the biggest upgrades in the game. As we blink a single Stalker forward. I think just to get a good idea of how many Lurkers it truly were, there's a few more Stalkers go forward, but that is a Stalker meat grinder. Or steel grinder. I don't think that Serral is thinking that these games are easy. Serral is obviously always confident, and he's got a very good mindset, which is something you need if you want to be one of the most successful pro gamers of all time. But Serral knows that he has to work for it here. We have a couple of banelings trying to connect with the probes, but good reaction there by DNS. A few more roaches show up as well. Obviously, it's completely okay for Serral to lose out a couple of roaches at this point. You don't want to be a maxed out Zerg with a lot of drones and a bunch of roaches. Like, this is not the face in the game for roaches anymore. You want to get better units. Infestus, Corruptus, maybe Broodlords down the line, and of course Lurkers. None of the baneling run-by is really finding too much. DNS is dropping 3 extra Stargates, +2 air weapons close to finishing up. Corruptor count is obviously climbing. That's why it was important. It was good for Serral to lose these roaches. That'd be sick, by the way, guys. If you would ever just like find 20 roaches and you just build a circle of pylons around them. And then you just keep them there so they can't die. But I guess roaches can kill each other too. Could have been a play though. Well, a couple of abducts did go off on the carriers, and not 1 but 2 carriers will fall. You guys remember what I said about storming the Lurkers? Well, Corrupt is slightly more vulnerable against Storm, but not a whole lot. And now we're gonna give up on the carriers altogether. We go into Tempest. It's a bold move, Cotton. Tempest against Serral. I think we're in for a long one here, guys. Yeah, I like the High Templars in a cage strategy. I think that's pretty good. That Baneling run by was really bad, and he killed 2 carriers. Does Storm interact with armor? No. Storm does not care about armor, but Corruptors just have a lot of HP. And Storm, it's not like 80 damage, bam, the moment it lands. It's kind of like damage, damage. And obviously a guy like Serral is not gonna let his Corruptor stand in a Storm for the entirety of it. Over the last 4 years, guys, I've seen Serral literally lose one game like this. And that was against Zaun on Data C. In the DreamHack Masters Atlanta. Literally the only time. Other than that, I never see Serral lose. Now this is not quite an ultra late game yet. But we are getting there because I see +2 carapace on the way for Corruptors. So we're really not that far off. Cancel your Nexus DNS. We'll cancel it. Zaun did something that I've seen no other protos do. Wasn't it Homesteader Cup? Maybe it was. No, I think it was Atlanta though. Pretty certain it was Atlanta. Zaun against Serral on Data C. I know that Zaun won a couple games at least against Serral, but the specific game I'm talking about was Data C. And I think that was in Atlanta, because I remember watching that game from Sweden, I think. Because I was talking to Zombie Grub about it. And Zombie Grub wasn't at Homesteader Cup. Corruptors disguise you flying into the main base of the Protoss. A Tempest dies, a Carrier dies. Corruptors are just terrifying units. And the idea of syncing up Corruptors with a Nidus in the main base and then a couple of Lurks coming out of that Nidus. And that's very cool. Because normally the main reason why Corruptors cannot just camp into the main is because obviously they are not good against ground units. They can't even attack them. And if you got Lurkers for the ground units and you've got Corruptors for the air units, it does become problematic. Now the Storms are definitely starting to add up a little. A lot of these Corruptors are somewhat low on HP. And with all these Interceptors deployed, I do think Serral needs to be a tiny bit careful. But we're looking at these mineral banks. Serral sitting at 6k minerals, 5.6k gas. Meanwhile DNS has the Ruddy Probe. No, it's a Sentry. I remember Lambo laughing at me for not being able to enter my own main base after I had a probe on hold position. I think that was one of Lambo's favorite moments in StarCraft 2. Just dying over me blocking myself out of my own natural. Double denial on that Nexus going down. There was a Burrowed Zergling and now there is a little bit of creep too. Serral's gonna morph 7 of his Corruptors into Broodlord as a few more Banelings try to run by. Storms will kind of take care of it. A couple of Banelings have burrowed though. That's kind of cool. I don't know if DNS saw that. There's obviously a lot of things to pay attention to. Serral could unburrow. That's what he does. We'll get the probes and the High Templar. I mean, what the hell. 16 probes and a High Templar just by using burrow for a couple of seconds. Hey guys. Hashtag value. Yeah, but I think the Data C game at Homesteader Cup was short, Fiont. And I think the one in Atlanta was very late. Very late game with a big fight in the top left side of Data C. Very long one. We've now entered the era of even getting +1 armor on the Skytoss units. DNS obviously does have a terrifying army. And this was kind of the army that Zaun used as well back then. It was a mix of Tempest, Carriers, a Void Race, Archons, Mama Ship and a High Templar or two. Lurkers are still finding a lot of damage on the other side of the map. And it's not an ultra important base. Obviously losing a Nexus, losing pylons and gateways is annoying. No, nothing to truly worry about. Spore Crawler count is something I'd love to see here. I don't know if they showed the structure tab in a while, but I feel like if you're DNS and you see these spores out of position, then you just gotta go. And he does go, and he lands a feedback on the Viper, drops a time warp as well. Lands another feedback, this time around on the Infestor as a Fungal does connect with his High Templars though, and that's obviously painful. I want to say that wasn't bad for DNS, but I think he hesitated a bit too long. I love how Serral still finds ways to multitask a little, even in a 22-minute game. But you think it's still made right. It's like, alright, big armies comes down to the spellcasting. The Nidus plays is still there. The Lurker run-bys is still there. This is obviously very annoying for DNS. Because losing like a third base that's mined out, yeah, that's not a big deal. But losing your main, that's where things start getting very expensive. Got a lot of important structures there. Getting multiple oracles. Revelation is important for Void Rays being fired up. Do we have a Flux Veins, by the way? That's an upgrade that I don't think I ever saw DNS research it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. As a lot of the Spore Crawlers did go down there. Intercept count looking decent. Nice storm on the Broodlords. Mama ship does get abducted, but we're used to that. Now a couple of carriers get abducted and they will die. Serral did end up losing 22 drones there against the Zealots that got on top of this 12 o'clock base. Tempest are very slow though. It's so hard for Tempest to run away. Now we do have a couple of very big storms landing on the Corruptors. Can the Archons do their thing? No, the Archons cannot do their thing because of Neural Parasite. So Serral made damn sure that the Archons would not find the juicy hits. And Serral will stay perfect in the WTL Codas. Improves his record to 13-0. A 6-time 2-0 victory and 1 time in the ace match. Serral goes 13-0 in the regular season. And Basilisk goes 6-0 because now this clan war is officially over. I'm going to settle that prediction for you guys immediately. Choose prediction outcome. 97% of you guys believed that Serral would stay perfect. And he did. Final match. Fun one. Trigger versus Vindicta. Best of 2. This is our prediction. I'll give you guys 10 minutes, but we may end it early. Just want to show you guys the overall standings very quickly, and then I will tell you guys that little Homestead Cup story. So, onside was 5-0, Basilisk was 5-0, we are now 6-0. Somehow we have less points than Team Liquid. That seems a robbery to me, guys.
This is number 1 bullshit.
We are 6-0, they are 5-1, and we've got 1 point less. If you guys wonder how is that possible, it has something to do with going to ace matches. You win more points if it doesn't go to an ace match. And we went to an ace match twice, so we got some less points there. That is why we have less points than them. Obviously, it's still silly. We're perfect. 6-0, guys. So, we were talking about the skill level, right, of players throughout the history of StarCraft 2. And then someone mentioned, Elmio, I believe it was, that Flash against Parting was insane. And it was a very fun series, don't get me wrong. But there is something that happened in Flash against Parting, which really goes to show how far along we came when it comes to dancing with units. And that is that one time, Parting had a Stalker that was being targeted by a Widowmine. And then he ran that Stalker forward into the Marines. And Flash just stood there, looked at it, and then the Widowmine went off, and the Widowmine softened up like 8 Marines, and we're all like, oh my god, that is an amazing play. And now you see that literally in like Diamond League, in Low Master League. People try to do that. The Terran anticipates it. The Terran will unburrow or switch targets. And that's something that the 2 guys in the final back then didn't even do. Parting was the first one to do that. And we lost our minds because like, oh my god, that's brilliant. The Widowmine tried to shoot at the Terran units. And now we don't even mention it when it happens because we always try that. And it's up to the Terran to make damn sure that that doesn't happen. Which I think that really goes to show how far along we came. Now you see the burrow, on burrow, retarget, another retarget. Yes, no. And back then it's just like one unit walks into the Terran army, blinks back, Terran army blows up to a Widowmine. Big difference. A very, very big difference. Slowly lets us know that you can be undefeated and not finish first because of the ace matches actually. Well, I rather not finish first and be undefeated than finish first with a couple of losses. Roddy-wise, Homestead Cup not part of EPT points this year. Because I think to be part of the EPT circuit, you need to qualify to certain things. Where you need to make sure that it's open to everyone, no invites. You have to pay for the journey of the players and stuff, and I think TechTV just didn't want to do that. Being part of it forces you to stick to a lot of rules, and that can A, increase the cost, and B, not necessarily make the tournament better. So they tried it last year, and I think they weren't very happy with how it played out. Think back of all the GSL players not being able to come. They were forced to play. They were forced to host the event at a certain weekend. Then they did it that weekend, and then 5 of the Korean players that wanted to come couldn't come because of GSL. So I think Take TV was very disappointed with the way that it all played out, and that's why they prefer to run it without. I think, at least. That's me talking out of my, not necessarily my ass, but nobody told me this. It's just what makes sense to me. We've got our last best of 2, guys. Of course, there is much more StarCraft to look forward to today. And that is the Basilisk Big Brain Bouts that will start in 1 hour and 10 minutes. We've got Vindicta representing Platinum Heroes, trying to get a point on the board for them. And this is our man, our Canadian Protoss, who's been playing very good StarCraft lately. That is Trigger. Buddy, do you own stock in the Dutch East India Company? No. I absolutely do not, mate. I did stocks for a while. I'm not really doing it at the moment. I think I lost around 16,000 euros. So, yeah, good run. Invest, buddy, invest. I invest. All hell breaks loose. Pure pain. Maybe one day we'll get it back. But not too many stocks at the moment. Alrighty. Altitude, guys, for the final best of 2 of the WTL Codas regular season. We've already won. The only question is by how much? Top right side, we are looking at the main base of our Canadian Protoss. This is Trigger. Bottom left side, obviously, representing the Platinum Heroes. A good friend of the channel, a young man that I love. It is Miguel, aka Vindicta. I think overall, yes, there are way less points available. Less events, less points. But that also means, of course, that the weekly tournaments become more important, right? So hopefully we see those pick up and become even more competitive. But I also think it's fine that not everything always needs to be part of the EPT. There's nothing wrong with just having great StarCraft action without it being part of some big overarching competition organization. But sometimes you just want to run a fun weekend of StarCraft, go ahead and do it. Yeah, I guess on-set plays tomorrow or the next day. I don't know if I'll be covering a lot of the WTL this weekend. Obviously, we always cover the Basilisk games. That is important to me. I want to make sure that I know how the boys are performing. I want to make sure that I know how it all plays out. But tomorrow and Sunday, I think I'm just going to take it easy. I'll do it if Wadi has a day off and there is nothing else. But I really want to watch some football this weekend as well. Just chilling. We've had a lot of very long days in the month of May. So I think taking it easy for a weekend is not the worst thing. Of course, if Basilisk is playing, I'm always here. That is one thing I promised in the beginning of the season. Ajax fan? Yep, mate. Absolutely. With the name that I have, I'm a diehard Ajax fan. Ooh, the adapt. Is it stuck? No. For a second there, I thought the adapt was stuck, but then I realized it was just in a hold position. It has happened, though. We often see units get stuck there with different wall-offs. Alpha XD banning was obviously sad news, but I have to admit that I kind of saw that coming when they pulled out of the WTL Code S, right? Like, nobody pulls out of WTL Code S unless you have plans to move on and not stick around. So, it was sad news when they announced that, and I kind of saw this one coming. We've got Blink on the way for our Canadian young men. Meanwhile, Vindicta is a Protoss, by the way, or excuse me. If you guys aren't familiar with Vindicta, he's an American Terran player from San Diego who loves the late game. He's one of the few Terrans out there that, if he has an opportunity to sit back, build some goals, build some Liberators with advanced ballistics, and even get some nukes down the line, he'll do it. You have some American Terrans that are the complete opposite, that just want to end things as quickly as possible and do crazy stims. Vindicta is very macro-oriented. And I actually think that is stylistically a very good matchup for Trigger. Because Trigger is excellent in that mid-game, early late game in PvT. Does a great job in cranking out probes, just like Max Angel. Is always good in taking additional bases. And then eventually, once he knows that this is where the Terran army becomes scary, he will find the damage with run-by, Zealots, DTs, War Prisms. And then often has a strong core army with just Colossus, Disruptors, and excellent army movement. So I think stylistically, Vindicta is a good opponent for Trigger. Of course, Vindicta could switch it up. He could surprise us, but I think that is more likely if this was like 2-2 or 1-3, and there's still a lot to fight for. Since it's already over, I think Vindicta is just gonna play his game and do what he enjoys and what he thinks he's good at. Who's better, Cuckoo or Vindicta? I think Vindicta is a little bit better. But that's pretty close. Cuckoo can be very good. Vindicta is definitely way more solid. But Cuckoo can peak. Cuckoo is a little bit inconsistent. But Cuckoo does have his days where he's amazing. But I think Vindicta on average performs at a slightly higher level. Did Spirit join a new team? Yes, Spirit is now part of Sidestorm Gaming. You're from SoCal? It's kind of early, no? For both of these guys, by the way. Some early morning video gaming. A lot earlier for Vindicta than it is for Trigger. But still. Gumio is no longer part of Sidestorm Gaming. He has been trying to find a new team for a little while right now. Especially for Vindicta, I think it's proper early. For Trigger, it's okay. Trigger is not really like the ultimate gamer that I think stays up super late and he's like, oh no, I have to play a match at 9 or 10 a.m. Like, I think he's quite okay with that. What level are Reynor, Serral, and Scarlets of the world? 7k, what's max? In MMR, yeah, I would say that Serral like 7.4k, Reynor 7.3k, and Scarlet probably like 7,000 MMR. I think Reynor and Serral are a little bit higher. But yes, that is basically the max. I think the highest MMR ever was Serral with 7,500 something. Because we have not one but two auto turrets going down in the main base of a Trigger. The shield battery got picked off and two probes went down as well. Are there any plans for 2v2 in the team league? I don't think they are very fond of it. I wouldn't hate it, but not more than one. Like, if they want to implement it, I think it'd be kind of cool. But I don't know how they would do it with this system. Like, they would need a completely different format. I think 2v2 is fun, but you should really not overdo it. Because then it becomes a whole lot less fun. Just 1 point, one best of one, that's it. 2v2 or Archon, what do you prefer? Definitely 2v2 then. I think Archon is a very silly mode. That's fun for casual gamers, but doesn't make any sense at the highest level. You can just ban him, by the way, slowly. That's the second very weird comment by this dude. Just ban. You can always ask for an unban if he behaves, but I'm kind of done with it. Being weird one time a day is one thing, but stupid comments like that, just perma-ban. Don't think anyone will miss him. I won't. Not one, but two Widow Mines being dropped into the main base. And that is -7 probes. So Vindicta's doing a very good job in staying more than relevant when it comes to the worker department. It's also going up to 3 bases. I mean, we thought that out of the two, Vindicta would be the sleepier one. But so far, this is an excellent game by Vindicta. Only down 4 workers, got +1. Already has Vikings on the production tab. Ghost Academy is done. First Ghost on production as well. This is a very strong showing so far for Vindicta. Gotta say though, guys, like I know a lot of people came into this like, oh, Basilisk against Platinum Heroes, that's not that fun, not worth watching. But I feel like we haven't seen a single bad game so far in this entire clan war. I enjoyed game 1 and game 2 between Reynor and Goblin. I enjoyed both of the games of DNS and I thought he played excellent. And here Vindicta is off to a very good start. Like, he's in the lead right now. Make no mistake. Vindicta is in the lead here 9 minutes into game 1 on altitude. So Adaboy is asking, sorry if it's a dumb question, but what makes 2v2 and SC2 not that appealing to cast or watch? Too much going on and not to follow? It's none of those things. 2v2 can be very fun, but the problem is that the game is not balanced around 2v2. So basically you're gonna see the same 1 or 2 matchups and 1 or 2 compositions very often, because those are just superior to the others. On top of that, 2v2 hasn't had new maps in a long time, so the maps have been around forever. It's just, to make 2v2 incredibly cool in StarCraft, you would kind of have to have a dedicated patch for 2v2, but that's obviously never happened. And you would need a few more maps as well, because we've been playing 2v2 on the same maps for the last 7 years. But like, I gotta say, the few times that we randomly sometimes have a bit of 2v2 action, it's been entertaining, right? Think back of the last Nation Wars. I think we had a couple of great 2v2 games, and especially when I started hopping into the comms of the teammates, I thought it was a great idea, and that gave us some amazing content. A lot of fun, but not something that I need to see every single month. Not something that I want to see 6 hours a day. But like having Clem and Reynor on one team and listening to them bantering with each other and having a good time, that was just really fun. I still have one of those videos on my YouTube channel, so if you guys want to check that out, that was actually, I think, a very fun day of StarCraft. Reynor molding after Clem didn't build turrets after losing 5 games in a row to Mutalisk quickly. I played some 2v2, yeah, Balneza. I also played 2v2 in Nations League together with Grubby. So Grubby and I represented the Netherlands in 2v2. And sometimes for Fnatic I played 2v2. I played a few games with Abwehr from Russia, and I think a few times with Hooligan too from Russia. Often Roddy and the Russians teaming up in the early days. I think a few times with Satini as well from Finland. I wasn't bad in 2v2. I wasn't great, but I wasn't bad. The problem is that I was too eager to attack all the time. So I would have to have an ally that was aware of that. Because I basically just always fought in Warcraft. I never did any creeping. While 2v2 was a bit more about creeping, as the Trigger sets up a nice surround there, guys. A couple of Zealots and Stalkers coming in from the bottom. A few Novas tried to connect, but even though Vindicta, I want to say, got caught off guard, I felt like he was kind of ready for it, right? He almost embraced that surround. This was right before a lot of the upgrades finished up for Trigger as well. +1 armor not quite done yet. Look at the Viking positioning there for the men from the Platinum Heroes, Vindicta. As these Vikings were able to just wail away at these Colossus, and a couple of Colossus went down, even despite battery overcharge running. I'd love to see the units lost resource step, as I feel that Vindicta has played a very efficient game. Yeah, Fnatic Satini for sure. Satini was one of our star players. I was the real star, because I was the captain, baby. I know that Hearthstone is called the captain in StarCraft 2, but I was the actual captain of our Warcraft 3 team. Do you have any interest in StarCraft Brood right now? Absolutely zero. I watched it a few times, and like, of course, if I would be at an event like BlizzCon and there is a great match and all my friends want to watch it, I'll gladly watch it with them. But me sitting here at home, I have never enjoyed watching a single minute of Brood War. I've tried it. I tried Artosis' stream as well, but that's just not for me. And that's okay. I don't judge. I'm glad that there are people that enjoy both StarCraft 2 and Brood War at the same time, as Trigger feels that this is a fight he can take. Beautiful split so far. More good splits. Vindicta with some absolutely fantastic micro. But Trigger says, alright, there's more where that came from. But none of the Novas still connecting finally there. One cash money hit, and you can see that on Vindicta's face. He was not happy with that. But despite that great Nova, guys, it was still going quite alright for Vindicta. His supply is standing strong. He was able to chase. He still has a lot of supply inside of one of these medevacs. You probably want to unload as another Nova does connect. Oh, this is painful right now. All of a sudden, the Novas are starting to find their targets. Vindicta had great micro there for a little while, but it almost felt that he got very upset that one Nova did connect with all these ghosts. He was still doing great, and if he would have just unloaded and kept going forward, I actually think he would have been able to wipe the floor with that army of Trigger. I think you started all your NGLs. I do not really remember my NGL statements. I do remember always writing something on the WTL website and then NGL copied it, but Trigger right now, guys, with 186 supplies, ready to fire a few more Novas forward. Gets another good connection there. Unfortunately for Vindicta, all of that took place right before +2 kicked in. I think we've got a double drop on the top left side. It's kind of heartbreaking for Vindicta, who played a really good game. That's not a double drop, it's a couple of Vikings. Vindicta played a good game and displayed some great micro there, but he felt that the one Nova tilted him more than it actually truly had an impact. Obviously it was a big hit, but I felt that he was proper frustrated by it. It kind of impacted his decision making in the next 20-30 seconds that followed, and then he lost a whole lot more than he did to that first Nova. Zealots and Stalkers finding some damage in the triangle. This is where Trigger is often shining, guys. Very good at setting up run-bys, and we kind of saw it there. Even though Vindicta didn't want to give it to us, we did see a big Nova land. This Trigger also gets the 1-0 lead. 5-0 right now for Basilisk. So we are one map away. Getting a perfect 6-0. I'm almost like rooting for Vindicta to get 1 point on the board, but I don't really want to see Trigger drop a map, obviously. But I feel that the Platinum Heroes have really played a solid clan war. Like, it's 5-0, but all 5 games were, I think, worth watching. They were cool, they were interesting. Those boys are battling. And they have put up one hell of a fight. Even though on paper it's a very one-sided affair. In the actual games, I think we had a good time. Now, guys, obviously don't leave as soon as the final game is done. Because not only are we going to do an interview with the boys, of course, we're going to do the big rain bouts today at 6 p.m. as well. And we've got some very fun games ahead of us. There's $500 on the line for players to win. Those $500 are provided by Cuckoo. I heard that he is sending them over to my PayPal right as we speak. Really cool of Cuckoo to finally do something back for the community. Can't wait. Don't think that's happening, guys. It's all Basilisk. But yeah, it will be cool. A long but very fun Friday of games ahead of us. No disruptors in Stormgate, and I'm happy. There will be there is a storm brewing right now, guys. Did you guys already put Stormgate on your wish list on Steam? This is very important. They want that. They care. So do that. And I heard that if you do that right now, you might get some sick news soon. You might see something. Final game of the WTL code as regular season played a 6. Bottom right side, Platinum Heroes, Vindicta. Top left side, our Canadian Protoss representing Basilisk. It's Trigger. It is a 5-0. One map away from the perfect 6-0. Doesn't really do a whole lot for us. We already got the maximum amount of points by just winning this clan war without going to an ace match. But it's cool for the record books, I guess. Yeah, it's been a fun one. I have enjoyed this clan war quite a bit. You're already refreshing the subreddit every hour. You can chill for a couple days, Blood Mila. Not too many days, but a couple days if I were you. Just chill. A Reaver with double shots in Stormgate, 100%. Good balance, trust me. Hello, Rod. A prediction for Sterling with Sean O'Malley. I'm not sure, but I'm excited for that fight. Could be fun. I find it very tough to predict fights in bantamweight, man. I feel like I'm pretty much always wrong in that division. I don't know. I thought that Cruz would beat Cody Garbrandt. Then Cody Garbrandt looked amazing. Then I thought Cody was going to beat TJ. But then TJ looked amazing. Then I thought Cody was going to beat him the second time. Like, I think I've been wrong 8 years straight in that division. So I'm just excited. No predictions. Is Stormgate going to have a single player campaign? There should be some more news in regards of all of that soon as well. Steam says Stormgate is similar to CSGO. I'm not allowed to tell you guys anything of what I may or may not know, but I can tell you that that's not true. Those games are very different. I don't know if you guys have had this as well, but a lot of people that now are tweeting about Counter-Strike 2, I often think that they're talking about StarCraft, man. And I'm like, oh shit, like Get Right is tweeting about like StarCraft 2, and then it's like CS2. Why the hell is it CS2 when we are SC2? Could they have not gone for something else? I've seen quite a few tweets, and I was like, oh, StarCraft? Never mind, Counter-Strike. Ah, no. Ah. Keep getting my hopes up. Some of the cool people talking about StarCraft. Huh? Yeah, a little bit maybe like the hot Serra indeed. So yeah, Reaper hop into the main base. I believe a single probe went down. Obviously this game right now, guys, is not all that important. The only thing that is on the line are the WTL points for these players, and they can qualify for a tournament later this year. Of course, Trigger wants to make sure that he too can get a few 2-0s on the board, but we know that he's capable of that. In my eyes, Trigger has absolutely nothing to prove. He's had great results lately. And honestly, I'm excited to see where this young man is going to take his talents over the summer. With DreamHack Masters, Yon Chopping on the horizon. And don't forget about Home Story Cup as well. And obviously plenty of other maybe Kung Fu Cups, weeklies. Seeing maybe Trigger play in a European weekly on a Monday night. After the DreamHack Masters, that would be a lot of fun. And he finally has low ping. It's going to be cool. I actually think that Trigger will really enjoy living in Europe for a little bit. If he does spend 2 weeks at my place, so he can stream on the European server with no delay. I think that'd be very nice for him. Stay in Europe, yeah. It's not 100% certain yet, so it's not an announcement or anything, but there is a good chance that if Trigger goes to Yon Chopping, that he will then stay 2 weeks at my place, and then we go to Home Story Cup together. But this is not confirmed yet. Just something that we are working on. I think he would have a great time. What do you think? Which team would suit Australia the best? I'm curious. I would have said Team Liquid if they didn't pick up Skillers, but obviously if they have Skillers, they don't really need Australia. I actually think Shopify Rebellion would be amazing, man. NA organization, Max Angel is a gem. I think he gets along incredibly well with everyone on the Shopify Rebellion. And Harstem is of course a great Protoss, but is often also very busy as a content creator. Well, I think Max Angel is a little more pure competition, less content creator. So, yeah, if I could have my wish, I would say send that man to the Shopify Rebellion. I think that'd be an amazing fit. I also think he's someone that would represent that team very well. Obviously, it's a very nice, well-polite mana team, and as I said, Max Angel is a very sweet man. So that would be my pick. Whichever will pay him. Yeah, of course, I hope that he just finds a team that's good to him and that makes him happy, but I think he would be an excellent fit to Shopify. Couple of stalkers of Trigger are trying to buy some time as Vindicta has 43 SCVs, so it's not that he hasn't really been building any SCVs, but he did go for a build that allows him to get a lot of battle units very early to the other side of the map. Once more, this is going to get very dicey, very scary, and very ambitious forward stim. But I don't hate it. That shield battery overcharge is putting in some work, but the Zealots do not stay alive forever. This is looking pretty dire for Trigger. Vindicta coming out guns blazing. There is a Colossus out, but that Colossus is not part of the Zealots, of the Sentries, of the Stalker, and the Colossus cannot ignore those 3 tanks. The final few seconds before charge is done. It feels like it's taking a lifetime here for Trigger, as now he's losing pylons as well. He's supply blocked. The probes are in a very problematic position. Excellent push here by Vindicta. Just made it to the other side of the map with his Marines, with his Marauders, and a bunch of tanks. That Starport is done now as well on the other side of the map, and we see that there is a medevac on the production tab. But it's already a great push. I don't think that Trigger, or I don't think that Vindicta should just go home right now. I think just stay here. Force the Protoss to take a fight into your tanks. You're sieging up your tanks in range of a battery, in range of a gate, close to the Robo. I don't want to see him go home. I love it. This is it. No need to let go. The second Colossus does come out, but there is still no thermal lens. Shield battery overcharge does not go deep enough for these Zealots. And you can see that Vindicta is just finding another good fight here. More Zealots are falling. Tanks are trying to get the Colossus. One Marauder should go solo operative there. Pick up the Marauder into a medevac. Fly it forward. Get the Colossus. Come on. Show me the good stuff. Oh, come on. We had to snipe that Colossus, Vindicta. This was a moment, mate. to live out your wildest dreams of being James Bond or... I don't know. Who's that other guy again? That Matt Damon always plays. Jason Bourne. This was the moment. So in the end, Trigger does keep one of his 2 Colossus alive. I don't think we have Thermal Lens, by the way, right? Because I haven't seen it on the production tab in forever, but I still don't see it. Vindicta's from LA, Jack Bauer. He would only beat Jack Bauer if he has 2 guns, okay? Have you guys ever seen an episode of 24 where Jack Bauer doesn't have 2 guns at the same time? This is impossible. It's always 2 hands at the same time, saving the day at the last second. I did enjoy that show for a little bit. Vindicta is now in obviously a very good spot after taking out the Nexus, getting a few probes, getting a Colossus. Since a Trigger was forced to defend that with all the units he was able to crank out over and over again, he hasn't been able to focus on a Forge or getting any upgrades. Vindicta is in a very good spot. And as much as I love Trigger and I'd love to see him get the 2-0, I feel that the Platinum Heroes deserve a map here, guys. Let's be honest. They've played a great clan war. They made us work for it. And that 5-0, I don't think it really tells the entire tale of the games that we saw here today. With DNS having some great games and Goblin having some great games as well. Disruptors don't need upgrades. That is correct. Colossus definitely don't have extended thermal lens by the looks of it. Otherwise they would have fired. Couple of Zealots are finding good damage though. It's just a few. I mean, kudos to Trigger there, guys. With just 4 Zealots. It's finding 9 SCVs. I think Vindicta's giving a lot of respect to a tiny Protoss army. And look at them Zealots go, guys. Shield Battery Overcharge activated once more. I mean, this really is the day of Coco's overcharges, eh? I feel like we have a Shield Battery Overcharge happen every 12 seconds. As Vindicta says, alright, enough is enough. I don't want to see this game go on for a whole lot longer. Finally takes out these Colossus. Still plenty of Marines and Marauders remaining. And I think Trigger kind of knows that it's going to be impossible to get on top of these tanks. He is going to try, but that will not be the case. One final Nova does connect, but even that is not going to be good enough. GG will get called. And Vindicta gets a draw, gets a point on the board. And he's happy, he's pleased with that. Double thumbs up. I will give the double thumbs up to the lads from Platinum Heroes, because they really played an awesome clan war today. You can take a look at the final scores one more time. Reynor got a 2-0 over Goblin in 2 fun games. Serral got a 2-0 over DNS in 2 damn fun games as well. And Vindicta played a very solid first game, had some great micro, didn't win on altitude, but he does win on Terran's favorite battleground, that is Babylon. So 5-1 is the final score. Now you guys know the drill. It's interview time, baby. We're gonna go ahead and do a little interview with the boys of Basilisk.